What's up, everybody? This is the 2020 BMW 330i xDrive. Huge thanks to Harrison Auto Sales and Service for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. So about the 330i, well, the 2020 model year was the second model year for this new generation of the 3 Series, and the 330i here is just the base trim, you know, normal 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. Nothing super powerful or exciting, but you know, it still has almost 300 pound-feet of torque, and you know, these were pretty expensive, was one of the more expensive options whenever these were new, but now, thanks to good old German depreciation like we see with many of these luxury brands, this vehicle now is just under $30,000 with very low mileage on it. And so is this a tempting used bargain here on the used market? A lot of these things are coming off lease now, you know, it's, I think, something worth considering at these kind of price points now, especially with the way car prices have been ballooning. So about this generation of the 3 Series here, well, it was longer, it's on a longer wheelbase now, it's a wider track, it's got a lower center of gravity, it's a brand new platform, so it's stiffer and you know, should just be better in basically all the ways pretty much. And so, I mean, I really like the styling. I think it's aged very well, especially with what we've seen from BMW in the past couple of years. This looks very conservative by comparison, and I think it'll age a lot better than many of those other more daring designs that we see in the more modern BMWs. But I think it's a really nice look up front there. You still have these LED headlights and you know, still have the more traditional smaller BMW grille, which I'm already missing badly. But otherwise, coming down to the sides here, you have these nice 18-inch wheels. Now this one does not have any of the M Sport packages or anything like that, which would bump you up to 19-inch wheels and some nicer looking brakes that are also larger. But these 18-inch wheels I think look really nice as well, and give you a little bit more of a sidewall there too, to give you a little bit of a softer ride. But that's why, you know, you'll see like the front bumper and stuff isn't quite as sporty as those M Sport versions are, but I think it still is a nice look. And then going out back, I always admired those 3-dimensional taillights there and how you have the red strip that kind of comes out and gives it some extra dimension there. It's not just a flat taillight, and I think it actually is a really nice look, and you know, nicely finished off deck lid there and rear bumper. And so overall, I think, you know, it, of course, especially here in white, really blends in. You know, doesn't really stand out too much, but I think it's classy and a pretty timeless design as far as modern BMW design is concerned. And I think that it's still just a really nice look. And the interior of the 2020 330i is a really nice place to be, especially this one, the way it was configured here with this orangish brownish leather is always a nice look here. And it's a very premium feeling interior for this new generation 3 Series here. So anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats, I love that you have these really nice sporty seats, even in a regular 330i. It's really just attractive looking for the seat, but it also has a lot of adjustability here. You have the thigh extension. You also have adjustable bolstering, which is something you usually don't get unless you're in a sporty, higher end, you know, trim or a higher option package. But this being a regular 330i, to have these seats is really nice. They're also heated seats here. I believe higher trims you're able to get cooling, but you just have heating here in this one. But really nice seats, and the adjustable bolstering is always one of my favorite touches on an interior. So this is a really nice seat in my opinion. Nice and soft and comfortable too, and feels pretty good. The steering wheel is also really nice here in 330. So you know, just a nice round wheel. Has a little bit of a 10 and 2 notch here, and some paddle shifters here on the back of the wheel. Just a few buttons here on it though. This one is also heated, which was an option. The gauges are also really great here. So this one has the higher option package, so you do get the digital gauges here, and they are a really nice looking set of gauges. I love how it's just so high resolution, really nice and sharp contrast to it, and I like how they have the different looks there with you know, the different drive modes, and I also love how that right little area there, you can have it customized to be, you know, whatever information you want to see there. And overall, just a really cool look. I've always appreciated the map in the middle of it as well, and I think it looks really cool. You could also get a head-up display in these. This one does not have that option, but you know, nice that you're able to get that as well. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, you have the 10.25-inch touchscreen as an option here. These came standard with an 8.8-inch touchscreen instead, but the great thing here is that you have wireless Apple CarPlay. BMW was one of the first to have, I think actually the first to have wireless Apple CarPlay, and I will test it out here during my drive here this afternoon, but so far it's paired up really easily to my phone and works really well, and that's a really nice thing to help future-proof this vehicle, to have that wireless integration built right into the car. And all the other stuff in the iDrive system works really well. You know, pretty easy and simple to navigate. I don't have too many issues with it. You know, changing radio stations, navigation, all that stuff is, you know, pretty nice and easy. There's also a controller wheel still if you prefer to not have fingerprints on your touchscreen there and you want to use the wheel to control it. You have that option still, which is great. And I also love, you know, this is one of the last BMWs to still have the climate control buttons here, with most vehicles in the industry here for 2024 and 2025 slowly getting rid of all of these buttons. It's really nice you have these here, and some nice nice knurled metal finishes, and then you also have a volume knob and the classic row of 8 buttons here, which you can assign to just about anything here. And, you know, really nice that you still have all that here, and I think it's one of those things that will age very well here in these, you know, recent but, you know, slightly dated 3 Series here in BMWs in general. Otherwise, you have you know, a nice big cubby here in front of 2 cup holders, a USB-A jack, and also a 12-volt power outlet. I also love this wood trim. It's open pore and just feels really great, looks really great. And the other thing I will say in this area is you don't have any padding down by your knee, so it's just hard, honestly cheap feeling plastic right there. That's really the only ding I can think of to what is otherwise a really nice and premium feeling interior. And then in the doors here, you have a nice large pocket with a bottle holder as well, and you know, all kinds of attractive materials there. And you also have a center armrest that feels pretty nice and soft, and you open that up and you'll see a USB-C jack in there, which is great that you had that, since that's something that everyone's switching over to now in these newer model years. But a nice good amount of space there for a sedan as well. And then moving on to the back seat here in the 330, it's actually one of the best back seats in the luxury sports sedan segment. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I easily have, I'd say, about 3 or so inches of legroom to spare, and that is better than a lot of the others. You know, I think the A4 is probably the closest, but C-Class is going to be probably a tiny bit tighter, and the Alfa Romeo Giulia Genesis G70 are going to be a little bit more tighter than even that. So I'd say this is definitely one of the best ones if you want, you know, a compact luxury sports sedan with a good back seat. Also, a good amount of headroom there as well. They also have a fold-down center armrest with 2 cup holders built into them, and also pockets in those doors as well. And so a really nice interior. I really like, you know, all the little touches, like even how you have on your dome lighting here, you know, the nice little touches there, and that almost looks Art Deco in its design. And also a larger than average moonroof too. Also trunk space is pretty good too, and, you know, about on par with, you know, some of the others out there. Slightly larger than some of the others, I think, for example, larger than a Giulia's trunk or a G70. But let's start up and go for a drive. The 330i here just has the usual BMW key, but it's a really nice key. It's not too big, actually pretty thin, has nice weight to it, nice metal chunks here on it, just a really nice feeling key. But of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. Alright, so setting off here in the 2020 330i. So the first thing you'll notice about it, well, I think the first thing that I notice is you have a nice low seating position here, and overall the dashboard, you know, comes down pretty low, so you have a pretty good view forward aside from this A-pillar, which is kind of chunky with this speaker and the mirror and everything being right there at the base of the A-pillar. It just makes that piece a little chunky, and with certain angles I've already noticed it's a little bit obtrusive there, but not the end of the world. View out of the back is pretty good in typical, you know, sedan fashion. Other things you notice though, you have nice smooth shifts from this ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. The ZF 8-speed is widely regarded by most people as like the best torque converter automatic in modern cars. It's just a really good transmission. We'll test it out here, you know, at some speed as well. But even just, you know, low speed driving here on this park road, it's, you know, just really nice and smooth. This engine, also for turbo 4-cylinder, some of them are a little clackety, a little louder and coarser sounding. This is really nice and smooth, even at those super low RPMs. And it's really nice and quiet in here. Again, we're not going fast or anything, but, you know, it just feels very nice and refined. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it up into the sport mode, and let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. And here we go. There it is. Wow, nice little sound of this engine. And as we lean onto the brakes here, nice and responsive brakes as well. So, as far as the powertrain here in the 330i, it runs the B48 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It does 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, and I've seen 0 to 60 numbers in the low 5-second range, between like 5.2 and 5.5 seconds. And I mean, it's very nice and punchy. It's a really nice torquey motor. The B48s have been pretty much bulletproof, it seems, too. Very strong, reliable engine, and again, just really, really smooth. And, you know, compared to some of the other competitors, like the Alfa Romeo Giulia probably pulls a little harder, but you know, this is definitely, I think, definitely the smoothest motor of the bunch, and really feels good. And the ZF 8-speed, you know, doesn't really make you wait around too long for a downshift or anything. And you do also have the manual shifting here. We can try that out. And yeah, that's pretty immediate. Oh, little crackle out of the exhaust. really snappy upshifts. Yeah, we'll play with that some more here in a minute, but yeah, best manual shifts in the business. It's worth noting though that the ZF 8-speed isn't exclusive to the 3 Series. It's also in the Giulia, but compared to like the G70's automatic, this is much quicker with the manual shifts, and it's actually better than the C-Class as well, and I love the ZF 8-speed. Now turn on to a windier back road here. Man, I really am impressed with this exhaust note though. I was not expecting it to sound as good as it does. Yeah, it's got to be my favorite exhaust note out of the bunch, I think, for all these cars. But anyway, going around some more corners here, it feels really good. So this one, again, does not have any sport packages, to my knowledge. Doesn't have any of the other tech goodies you could get with these to make them handle better. You could get adaptive dampers on these. You can get electronic limit slip differential with the M Sport package. This doesn't have any of that stuff, so it's just good old-fashioned, new suspension, which I mean is on this stiffer platform, which it was able to drop 120 pounds out of the whole platform there, and so I believe these end up being under 3,800 pounds, at least here for the 330i versions, and it feels nice and light. The only thing I will say is that even in sport mode, the steering is just kind of light and just feels a little vague. I don't love the steering. That's the only thing I will say. I mean, I can certainly say though for sure, like an Alfa Romeo Giulia has far better steering and also is a lot quicker with the steering, so that car feels a lot more alive and a lot more eager to dive in and sportier as a result. So I think that is still my favorite handling of the bunch. I think the Giulia is still really, really good. G70 also, I think, might feel a little dartier with its whole suspension setup, and just it feels like it's just on a little bit of a shorter wheelbase. This feels a little more stable and a little bit more confidence-inspiring, I think, than at least the G70. And I think it also is a smoother ride than what you're going to get with a C-Class, with those being just a little bit stiffer in all the forms, it seems. And A4 might be, about this soft. It's been a long time since I've driven that generation of A4, so it's hard for me to give a good comparison with that vehicle, but compared to most of the competitors, even like the Volvo S60, I think this is a little bit of a smoother ride than even that. And so I think they really did a good job of balancing ride comfort and good handling. But let's go hunt down some more tighter corners and see how it does when we push it just a little bit more. All right, and coming up to a tighter corner here, and let's push a little more, see how it goes. All right, a little bit squealy, but honestly, it was really neutral going through there and really nice and flat. It really handled that like it was nothing, and that is actually a challenging corner. So I mean, I'm pretty impressed with this thing, to be totally honest. Again, if the steering was quicker like the Giulia, I think it would probably be my favorite, because it's just so planted and so flat and feels really good. And as far as steering too, like if you want to customize that stuff, there is the individual modes here. So since this one doesn't have adaptive dampers, all you can really customize though is steering weight, throttle response, and then the transmission behavior pretty much. But it's nice you have a little bit of custom tailoring ability there if you want. Another thing to mention is this one does have the xDrive all-wheel drive system, which certainly gives you that more sure-footed grip of having all four wheels helping you out here, powering out of corners and stuff. But of course, you can still get these with rear-wheel drive and save yourself even more money if you live in a place where you don't need to worry about having all-wheel drive, or if you're okay living with rear-wheel drive where you are. I think it's really great, and it'll make it even lighter. And I think overall it's kind of blowing my mind just how smooth this is. And I think if you do want something that is almost as sporty in my opinion as the Giulia, but you want a smoother ride, something a little bit easier to live with, having this touchscreen infotainment system certainly better than the Giulia's, which makes mostly just force you to use a controller wheel until I believe the 2020s. I mean, even the newest Alpha infotainment system though isn't great. So as far as livability goes, having the extra space here in this, having the smoother ride, the better infotainment. The stereo, by the way, is fantastic. Even though this is just the regular stereo, I've been listening to wireless Apple CarPlay, just music, and it is really a good stereo for the standard stereo. So you don't have to worry about having to upgrade to the Harman Kardon system to get a good sounding stereo. It's still base BMW stereo, but it still sounds really, really good. So no pressure there. But other things here though about this to talk about, is the safety equipment. So that was one of the things that was a little more controversial here with the 3 Series, was that whenever these first came out for this generation, the safety equipment was not great. So you do have automatic emergency braking as standard, but basically everything else is extra cost options. And like for the example, this one, even though this has some nice options on it, has no blind spot monitoring, which is kind of a given. There's a lot of vehicles these days, even in the mainstream brands, that make that standard. BMW was still nickel and diming people for that kind of stuff back in 2020, and so As a result, you have to make sure that one of these is spec'd exactly how you want. If you want some of that more advanced safety tech, this has no adaptive cruise control, which you get on a base Toyota Corolla these days as standard. You know, there's just those types of things that are missing here if you don't have one that's properly spec'd. That's just something whenever you're, you know, sifting through these on the used market, you really have to, you know, have a fine-tooth comb here to, you know, get exactly what you want, because it was really a lot of a la carte stuff and, you know, picking the right packages and all of that. And speaking of picking the right packages, one other thing is, you know, it's going to really come down to how sporty of a 3 Series you want. Now, this one has none of the sport packages. Some reviewers have really praised them up and down. Other reviewers have complained about them being too stiff. So definitely that's going to be something you want to test drive and make sure that it's not too stiff for your preference. But what I can say is that, you know, even without all the fancy handling tech and all the, you know, sportier setups that are available, this just being a base 330, I'm pretty sure, it handles really well. It's still a 3 Series. It still is going to handle really nice and flatly, and, you know, have all the same improvements of this new generation and the new platform and everything I mentioned earlier. And so, you know, I think that actually this might be the sweet spot, having the smaller wheels, having, you know, the less stiff suspension and all that. I mean, you know, if you're going to autocross it or you're going to really get aggressive with your driving, sure, I'm sure that stuff might, you know, be nicer to have. But if you're someone who just wants a comfy, sporty daily driver, I think this is really great. And yes, you don't get the sportier looks of the M Sport packages and stuff like that, but nothing the aftermarket can't fix. So I honestly think this is really the sweet spot, just getting a regular 330, saving yourself some money, and having a better ride, and still have a really great handling car. But one thing I can say about the safety tech is that it is definitely not calibrated very well. And in my driving here, there's even one time where I wasn't even getting close to the road lines. I was just going down the road, and it, for some reason, got confused and thought that the grooves in the road were road lines, and it would start vibrating the wheel and trying to nudge me and all that. And I had it on the reduced setting as well. So if you had this thing, you know, with everything turned up, it would be really obnoxious. But I just ended up going on and just turning everything off, because clearly this system was not ready for prime time. Even in 2020, the second model year of this generation, it still is just not good. So don't expect the lane keep system to, you know, be anything that's worthwhile to use or have, unless you really like something that's constantly nudging you and annoying you. But aside from that, you know, I think everything else here is really solid. But the last couple of things I mentioned here are the fuel economy and the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as fuel economy goes, these are rated at 25 mpg in the city, 34 on the highway, and then 28 combined. And I gotta say that that is better fuel economy than most of the competitors. This motor is really fuel efficient while still being so punchy, and so that's one of the nice perks, is you're gonna get slightly better fuel economy than most of those other competitors. And then as far as the competitors go, and, you know, the pricing. Now, when these were new, they started just under $44,000. You could option even a regular 330 all the way up to almost $60,000. And so that's why this one, you know, has just over 20,000 miles on it, and this one only costs $30,000 at Harrison Auto Sales. And obviously there's many others like this one. This isn't the only one at that great price, but, you know, it's just impressive that, you know, the usual German depreciation thing has done its thing. And so now you have a vehicle with lots and lots of life still left in it, and you know, it's just a lot more affordable than it was just a few years ago, while still having all the newest, you know, infotainment stuff with the wireless CarPlay and all the tech you could want still. It feels every bit like a 2024 model year vehicle still, yet you're only paying $30,000 for a BMW sports sedan with, you know, lots of punch, lots of comfort, lots of luxury. And so I think, you know, it is one of my favorite picks in this segment. Now, if you're going to keep one of these long term, I'd recommend getting an extended warranty, because BMWs and all the used German stuff can sometimes have electrical gremlins and expensive maintenances down the road. So you just want to be aware of that kind of stuff. And I think that if you're someone who wants the most reliable vehicle and you want to have, you know, the most worry-free experience, the Genesis G70 is really, really fun and just as dynamic as this, and even slightly more so in some ways. And those have depreciated even faster. But you, with those, if you get a certified pre-owned one, you still get the 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty in those. And I've seen G70s with the 2.0 T motor, similar model years and stuff, going for low to mid $20,000. So I mean, comfortably maybe $5,000 or so less than even something like this. You know, maybe closer to, you know, $3,000 or so if you're looking at really comparable miles. But it is cheaper, is the bottom line, than what you're going to pay for a 3 Series. So there is, you know, an even better luxury bargain to be had there if you don't need one of those German brands. But I'm really glad I got a chance to finally drive this generation of the 3 Series. I now see why a lot of people really enjoy it, really like it, and why it's so highly regarded. I think, you know, I love the Alfa Romeo Giulia. I still think that is my favorite as far as the absolute best handling, most enthusiast-oriented vehicle in that segment. But if you don't need to have the best handling possible, or you just want something that's a little more livable, you know, I think that this is actually probably a close runner-up. G70 is still, I think, would be my pick if it were my money, again, for the reasons I mentioned. But, you know, if G70 doesn't appeal to you, Julia doesn't appeal to you, I would say this is definitely my favorite of the bunch, and a really good vehicle. And I mean, definitely the smoothest ride of the bunch, I think, and just really, I think, the most balanced all-rounder. And so if that's something that you strongly value, I would really say that this probably could be the best pick of the bunch. And so yeah, really impressed with this. And if you are interested in this one in particular and you're watching this video in the first, you know, few weeks of me posting it, it might still be available at Harrison Auto Sales. Definitely check out the link in the description for all the info on it there, and give them a call. They'd be more than happy to help you out. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the 2020 BMW 330i. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks once again to Harrison Auto Sales for letting me review this vehicle. And let me know if you have any other follow-up questions in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer and help out anyone who's looking for the right vehicle for them. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.